What's going on, everyone? So, I Know What You Do Last Summer, the Legacy sequel, is supposed to be in the works. They are working out to begin start filming all that stuff, right? Brandy even talked about how she's been reached out, and I'm excited, right? Now, hopefully, they don't ruin this, right? Hopefully, they keep within reason because we've seen a lot of these Legacy sequels and these requels and all that stuff come out, and you look at ones like The Exorcist or just the Halloween Ends and stuff where people are just like, this is a disaster, this is terrible, right? um Even just like what they did with characters like Sally and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one and all that, right? Like, it's just they they've had some lackluster moments, to put it lightly. But I'm excited for the upcoming I Know What You Did Last Summer regardless. One of the questions, however, is what is Julie's mental state? Where is she? And has she had issues? Right? Because you're talking about picking up, by the time this movie comes out, assuming that it's in real time, right? 27 years? Right? Like, maybe they have a time jump or something to where it's like 30 years by the time the actual movie does come out, like 30 years from the original. Okay, like, what has been happening for 30 years, right? Like, what's been going on with Ben Willis for 30 years, right? Is it even Ben Willis, right? Like, there's so many questions. But what we saw at the end of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then sprinkled throughout I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, was Julie having these nightmares. And Julie's mental state not being quite right, right? Her constantly dealing with these for us, well, the audience, it was, did this really just happen or was it a dream? For her, like, they were dreams, they were these nightmares, they were these almost like visions to her in many ways. Like, they just felt so real, and she was just really struggling with that. Is that something that she is still dealing with at the time of this film, right? Is that something that she got over, right? Like, do we get maybe that scene and kind of an explanation to that, right? Does the movie at some point have her in therapy, talking to a therapist, kind of, working through? Because, I mean, look, I mean, what she's gone through, and she's gone through it twice, is traumatic. And I mean, we've seen horror franchises kind of explode. I mean, look at Scream 3, right, with Sidney Prescott. And they wanted to explore that even further. They wanted Sidney full mental breakdown, like just losing it. But they weren't able to do that because of Nev Campbell's scheduling conflicts for Scream 3, right? But they wanted to dive into it even more than we got. So do they kind of take that approach with Julie, and Jennifer Love Hewitt's character in this upcoming I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel, right? Because, again, it's been a point that they've really gotten across in part one and part two, right? The first time we really saw it was at the end of part one. I mean, she had, it again sprinkled in, but like that signal almost of like, okay, more is to come, was at the end. And then you get part two, and it's like, oh, okay, so that was just a dream. And then, oh no, she's really dealing with these dreams, and she's waking, and it's affecting her life. I mean, she's waking up in class and, screaming at the top of her lungs and just dealing with stuff. And right? It was something that really affected her. It was something that really impacted her. It was something that, that was clearly traumatic for her. And, if, is it like, where is she in her headspace, right? Especially if you do like an anniversary style thing, right? Especially if you do something where, it is 30 years from the original day, right? 30 years from when they had this incident, and it picks up, and is she fine, or is she kind of like on edge, right? Is her and Ray, are they together? Are they separate? Right? Is that the way that they have the connection? right? What if it is something where, you know, it is the 30-year anniversary and Julie's there and, you know, Ray shows up just to make sure she's safe, right? Maybe they have kids together, right? Maybe it is something where it's just like, you know, hey, I just want to make sure. I know it's been all this time, but I just need to know you're good, right? And Julie's dealing with all these mental issues and trying to overcome the mental struggles and all that, right? Like it would make sense to kind of go and explore that route, right? With the 30-year potential connection and tie-in, which is rumored that that's kind of the direction that they're going to go. Or do they do something where, you know, maybe Julie is over it, right? Maybe Julie is, you know, has kind of put it in the past. It's been so long. It's been 30 years. Like, I've moved on with my life, you know. She's not having nightmares. Everything's cool. Everything's copacetic. Like I said, maybe she's a mother, you know, and she's just doing her career, living her life. All is right in Julie's world. And then the nightmares start coming back, right? And she's starting to have these old issues start come to light. And she just writes it off as like, you know, hey, it's the 30-year anniversary. It's, you know, it's just, I'm just stressed. You know, I got work, I got this, I got that. You know, like I said, maybe Ray and Julie are married, they're together, they're happy, life's good. Ray's just like, you know, hey, are you okay? Like, is there anything? And she's just like, hey, you know, fine. Just, you know, it's just the stress, it's just everything that's going on. I'll be good type thing, right? Like, you know, and that's the usual horror trope, right? Like, that's usually how it goes, right? Like, they usually have the, you know, I'm fine type thing. And, you know, they're having these visions or these dreams or whatever that they should clearly listen to, but they just want to justify it and all that. Right? It's typical horror trope. Right? Because again, the dreams have been a big part of Julie, and her mental state has been a big part of the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. That's why I think it's worth talking about. That's why I think it's worth exploring, because there's clearly a point, for lack of a better word, like phrase or whatever, right? Like, it's clearly a point that is emphasized in each film with her having these dreams, right? And the connections to the hookman and Ben Willis, and, you know, her trying to deal with not only the monster in the real world, but the monster in her head, right? The demons in her head, right? And her having to kind of overcome both. And then the demons in her head are worse than the demon in the real world, right? Like, the demon in her head is something that she's got to overcome and can't seem to win that battle, right? Because again, at the end of part 2, you see her once again having that. Life's great, you know, Ray's in the bathroom, loving his little electric toothbrush. You know, she's happy, she's finally comfortable and safe, sees the window, shuts the window, all is good, and then you see the muddy footprints, and you're like, uh-oh, right? Like, and they just had this build-up, right? And you had this moment where, you know, Julie, she's in bed, she's happy, she's finally free, it seems like. But we know, like, oh, something's coming, right? From an audience perspective, but to her, in her mind, she's finally overcame those challenges. She's finally overcame those demons, right? She's finally put the past behind her, right? Her and Ray are good. They're happy. They're together, right? Like, boom. And then you have the scene at the end, you know, she gets Ray's dead and she gets dragged under the bed. And again, clearly that was a dream. Clearly that wasn't real. Clearly that wasn't reality. But that's something that is a point that they made all throughout part 2 that you gotta imagine is going to play some type of role in this upcoming third installment, which again, I'm all for, right? And it fits kind of like what you see in these horror franchises, right? Like I said, you could kind of have that tie in to Scream 3, like what they did with Nev Campbell and Sidney Prescott do the same thing with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Julie James. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that, yes, you got to have the connections with the, her and her struggles with, just the dreams and all that? Maybe she's going through therapy. Maybe she's, maybe she's overcame it. Like I said, maybe she's gotten past it and now it's kind of coming back to light. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.